It was the kind of sweltering summer afternoon where the heat makes the air shimmer over the pavement. We were stranded at an abandoned dirt motocross track, suffocating under the sheer, intoxicating boredom of a long August day. My two older brothers and I were operating under the specific delusion unique to young boys. We believed we were indestructible. We had zero foresight, absolutely no fear, and an urgent need to find the most dangerous adventure possible within walking distance. We were carving a path 6 feet straight into the side of the hill. Looking at the project from this angle, the flaw is obvious. We cleared out a massive hollow space, leaving several tons of earth hanging right above our heads without a single support beam to hold it up. As we dug deeper, we were actively fighting a basic principle of geology. Dirt has what engineers call shear strength, its physical ability to resist sliding against itself. But at a certain depth, the downward pull of gravity completely outmatches that lateral shear strength. The heavy soil suspended directly above that empty space physically cannot hold its own weight. Since I was the smallest, I volunteered to test our new clubhouse first. I crawled in head first, wriggling my shoulders down into the very back of the tunnel, where the dirt walls were tightest and the ceiling was at its absolute weakest. The naive invincibility of childhood completely blinded us to the physics at play. We were just excited to sit in the cool dark of our accomplishment, completely unaware that we had hand-engineered a fatal deadfall trap. I heard a low, heavy thud, and the ceiling collapsed entirely. Hundreds of pounds of compacted earth dropped directly onto my back. The daylight vanished in a fraction of a second. At that exact moment, loose, dry dirt forcefully packed itself into my open mouth and jammed up my nasal passages. The sheer weight of the soil was absolute. I tried to push myself up, but my shoulders were pinned flat. I tried to twitch a single finger to clear the dirt away from my lips, but the crushing weight of the earth held my arms tightly against my ribs. I couldn't move a millimeter. Then came the intense, stifling heat. Trapped under the insulating layer of dirt, my own body heat had nowhere to go, instantly turning the tiny pockets of remaining air into a claustrophobic furnace. Without the ability to move or fight back, survival was stripped down to a cold biological clock, a countdown of the oxygen remaining in my blood. My body immediately initiated a severe panic response. My heart rate skyrocketed as my brain demanded oxygen, but the massive weight pressing against my rib cage physically prevented my lungs from expanding to take a breath. Because I was pinned with my head angled downward, the blood had nowhere to go but my skull. As the pressure spiked within the ocular vessels, a blinding crimson light began to pulse against the back of my closed eyelids. Surrounded by crushing weight, unable to breathe, and staring into a glowing red void, my 7-year-old brain reached its breaking point. It couldn't process the physiological trauma and settled on the only logical conclusion. I had died in the dirt and I was waking up in hell. Under this kind of extreme physical stress, the sense of time begins to fracture. A few seconds of suffocation stretch out into an agonizing, subjective eternity, making every silent moment feel like an age. Beyond the physical agony of asphyxiation, the mind begins to eat itself. As the body shuts down, the brain fills the silence with hallucinations that turn a physical trap into a psychological prison. Just as my consciousness began to slip away entirely, I felt the violent, jarring shock of a hand wrapping tightly around my exposed left ankle. My brothers heard the collapse. They were frantically clawing through the soil, hauling me backward by my leg through compacted dirt with everything they had. I exploded out of the dark hillside and hit the blinding summer sunlight, coughing violently as clear air finally forced its way past the dirt caked in my throat. The contrast of what happened next was surreal. 10 minutes later, my brothers were silently spraying me down with a garden hose in the backyard, washing away the evidence so our parents would never discover what had just happened. To this day, I carry the physical echoes of those few minutes. If I step into a tight hallway or a pitch-black room, my chest tightens, my breathing goes shallow, and severe, involuntary claustrophobia takes over. The experience left a permanent mark on my threat response. It created an enduring existential dread,
a lingering suspicion that a small piece of my consciousness never actually escaped that tunnel.